What's up, guys? I figured I'd do a video here midday just while things are, going nuts. I'm taking a small little break. Currently trading RKDA on dips. I got the last little dip over here, which is extremely risky, without a doubt. But I've got a million questions today, and I think the easiest way is to just kind of, go over, the action off the open and kind of the thought process and why it's likely here. RKDA, as I mentioned in chat, if you were watching over here, 44s, you can see kind of if you draw a line right under here, there was quite a bit of absorption. So there was a large bid getting filled over and over and over again. You could see that it was kind of an exit for a lot of people, and at the same time, when you see that and it starts to downtick a little bit, many may think, okay, it's done. So now I can go ahead and short. If you recall, it was pretty easy to borrow today. So, I think that's the reason why a lot of people got on the wrong side. But with that said, if it pulls back, and yes, a lot of times if 44 absorbs a ton of shares and then it starts to act as the top and it's heavy and it totally changes its trading pattern, then yeah, it's probably going to be the top. But the most important thing I think to recognize here is that if 44 reclaims, this is going to squeeze like crazy, probably 50s, 60s, 70s, something crazy. So I think a lot of people are putting a lot of weight into the fact that it did have quite a bit of shares exchange hands over at 44 and, thinking that it was top and okay, now it's time to be patient. How much more can it go? But you also kind of have to think too. 500,000 share float, 8 million shares traded. This will probably trade, it's only noon, so it's probably going to trade at least 14, depending on what it does, probably at least 14, 15 million. So, you're talking about rotation of the float over and over and over and over again. So the risk is obviously that, they could halt for potential, raise money or something like that or whatever, just like Dries and a couple others that have done that. So, you need to be aware of that. But if 44 does reclaim and start to base, then this can go absolutely bananas. So I think that's what you should be aware of. But again, if you're trading it at these levels, you have to be okay with, $5 risk. And I wouldn't be trading it unless you have a large padding. So rewind back to the start of the day, and I posted it right on the news. The news came out, and there really actually wasn't that much of a reaction. And then it was just kind of grinding, low volume, and yada yada, whatever. Then it started to catch into the 17s, and everybody kind of got interested, and a nice little pop out of the open. So it actually did offer a nice little shorting opportunity. I did short it into the parabolic, and then I covered on the dip because these are the types that if you don't, stays over VWAP and starts to grind and go and really squeeze out. So you can see it dips, holds VWAP, and continues to get a little bit more wild. So I ended up starting to get involved in dips and whatnot in this range. I don't know why it took me so long to go ahead and just get long. I knew it. I already had it in my head that it was probably going 30, 40, something like that. But started to get a really good read on it into this parabolic move. I got some on the dip, sold some into here, and then I sold some into the last bits into the nice parabolic move over here. So we'll see what really happens through the rest of the day. But like I said, I think that the most important thing is that, the higher lows and 44 reclaim. And if it doesn't, then we're going to go to 35. That's without question. So it's going to be interesting as the day gets later and, as the volume starts to fade off. If volume fades off but the price holds, then that's even crazier. The one other thing, too, is you have the SSR on this today. So SSR always helps everything because, you can kind of see shorts' hands when they're trying to hammer in and they come down and they're hugging the offers. A lot of times they get swiped, meaning, the offers might be showing something. Say right now it's 39.45 by 39.46 because they're hammering down on the offer, but they can't hit the bid because SSR is on. So sometimes you'll see a swipe, basically a big bid, big volume, take the offers, and then away she goes. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, I've been trading the dips, and so far it's been good, but you 100% need to know the risk that this can potentially go to 35 if it fails. And at that point, every pop's going to probably get sold into. However, if they catch it here, then they're just locking in more shorts again, and then 44 starts to become the big level. And each time that it does pull back like this and hold and kind of convince shorts that they got it right, then that's when you're going to have the upticks on crazy air, because once again, there's only 500,000 float. So just checking this out about an hour later or so, we had another little stuff right into the 41, 50, 42 level, pulled back, and once again you can see it pretty much retested this low here, and now it's starting to base at right around 38s or so. So the more that it does this, the more that it holds. If it eventually breaks at 44, then obviously, like I said earlier, we're going to have a ridiculous move. But right now is, if the eventual move is a squeeze, right now it is in complete baiting mode, where lower highs, and it's letting shorts come at it. And like I said before, the SSR, you're letting them come down. They can't hit the bid. They can't just slam it. So they need to either be on the offers, adding into liquidity, or they need to be, when it pulls back, I don't want to miss, and they start slamming the bids. But since they can't hit the bids, you get to kind of see a little bit of what they're doing on the offer. So most of the time, obviously, the shares are going to be hidden and whatnot, but it still does show you how excitable shorts are to get on this thing as soon as possible, as soon as it looks like it's going to take a turn down. So once again, like I said, it's been about an hour, or no, about 30 40 minutes or so. We did hold that level again, and we're coming on a key test. And like I said before, 44 will be a very big level. And if I am paying attention and it is going later on, I'll try to record the action live, just so you can kind of see how it ends up ramping when it hits those key levels. All right, so now we're about an hour later or so, a little bit more. Went a little bit lower. It actually went below the little support line, but it came storming back. So what my current thought is, if you were short, there's a good chance that you maybe tried it in here and then maybe added here, and potentially even had some from early on, like 1920, something like that. So there's a good chance that you were not on the right side of the move, and you probably aren't even profitable even at 35. And if you were, then there's a good chance that you're not even covering yet. So with that said, I think that the more it fades down and whatnot, the more that shorts actually don't cover. It gets out the weak hands. It potentially traps more shorts. And this is something that I would actually consider overnight in the event that it opens up $5, $10 higher. Just because it's really a game of numbers at this point. Like I've been saying, there's 500,000 float. So if somebody has that in their hands, then they know it's just a waiting game until all the buy-ins come in, and then they get their exit. So that's when sort of the system breaks, if you will, like dries, and we end up having a $5, a $10, or $20 type move, or something even crazier. So that's the thought process that I'm kind of using on this. But as I said in the room, and as I've repeated a million times, there's a lot of risk with that type of trade, because look, it could halt. So granted, we had some great trades on it earlier from early on that I kind of went over and whatnot, but there is quite a bit of risk involved in holding this over. So we'll see how it closes, but I just wanted to check back in. It's been about an hour and a half. And we finally got some of that nice upside move. But again, 44 is that key level. And until then, nothing else really matters until 44 really breaks. And then we're either going to have it today where it's going to have $5, $10, $20 type upticks, or potentially in the morning. But again, that's just my kind of own thoughts right now as I'm recording this. That could change if there's a big stuff. We'll see what happens. So again, now it's about 2 p.m. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording again, and we'll pick it back up at whenever the next kind of action. All right, so now it's 2:16, and we got our first push here. This is the first time that people are probably like, oh, whoa, this thing's not done yet. So it's still a little early, though. It's 2:15 p.m., and this could be a potential premature type of move. You can also see the volume is peaking up quite a bit. or parking up. So really what it comes down to is how does it react over this level here where it was a prior top, and then again that 44 level still becomes a big level. So those are the things to consider right now, but I still think that all of this is very, very possible. So a very big squeeze. So we'll see what happens, and at some point, like I've been saying and repeating a lot, it's 500K shares are available to public float. So when you have 10 million shares trading, that's 20 times more than what's available. So anybody that that had any size, in the way that this kind of works, the float rotation that we always talk about, anybody that had actual size, let's just say you had 10 or 20,000 shares. You were really confident this was going to go at $20. So you bought 10,000 shares. Then it ramps to 40. There's a good chance you sold at least half. Then you got 5. And then they got to try to get you down a little bit more, down to maybe 3, and then 2, and so on and so forth. So point being is that it's just a continual rotation, working people out of the size, working people in with newer, higher averages, and things like that. So that's current thoughts. We'll see what happens. So far, it's working out relatively well. And look, I may be dead wrong. It may just have huge stuff. But my point is to kind of take this from section to section, kind of tell you what I'm thinking beforehand, and see how it reacts. So again, ending this, it's 218. So next time I get on, it'll be in the next big move, and I'll go from there. I'll say what time it is then. All right, so we're back. It's 2:45, and we cleared through 44 on very quickly, and immediately went up to another $2. So now we're starting to really break out, and kind of as anticipated, as expected, we're going nuts. So hopefully this continues to go. Again, it still is early, so the more this goes, the more likely I would be taking profits and locking some in. But this is just the start of what could potentially be a very big move. So, like I went over last time, this prior top needed to kind of break, and then again over 44 was the next big level. All right, and now we are through 49 on air and getting towards 50. So this is where we start to get some crazy upticks. And like I said before, we should start to expect to see $5 to $10 type upticks. So we just got a 40 to 45, and now we're all the way through 50. So this is getting pretty fun here. So we'll just leave it on and see kind of what happens as this parabolic move starts to go nuts. It did just take off a little bit just in case, because obviously that's about, $12 in about 10 minutes. And now, as you can see, there's $4 tick right there. So it's going to start to get pretty wild. And the fact that this is happening now makes me a little bit less excited for tomorrow, because my thought process was potentially we get this type of move in the morning pre-market. We might have a $10 gap or something crazy like that, and be able to react from there. So I'm going to go ahead and pause it and just kind of let this action consolidate a little bit. And if it starts going nuts, I will put it back on. But now it's 2:49, and again, like I said, I'll come back if there's anything crazy. But I just wanted to kind of walk through this trade and what I was thinking real time. All right, so it did a brief consolidation, and pulled back a little bit, let out anybody that wanted to get out, and it's right back over 50. So I have about half left right now, and it's uncharted territory, so it's difficult to really know what to do with it. The key is just trying to get a good average and then just sort of react when this stuff happens. So the smart thing to do is obviously always lock in, but like I said, this is a pre-3 p.m., 3:30 type move. So there's still plenty of time to trap shorts, but there's also plenty of time that if this was it, and this was kind of like the squeeze out and that's it, then there's plenty of time for it to kind of unwind into the close. So in a perfect world, it just consolidates in the 46 to 50 range is ideal over the next, say, 20 minutes. And then after 3:30, it starts to head up. But we'll see. Who knows? We might get another $5 uptick or something like that near term. But All I know right now is I have half size, and we'll see what happens on the rest. And here we go again. We have $4 upticks at this point, which is great. It's getting really, really fun. But again, the thing is it's very, very scary, difficult, etc. for newer traders to trade something like this. We're right after 3 p.m. now, 3:07. Because look, there is the risk there. So if this were to halt just like Dries tomorrow morning, if it opens up at 70, runs to 80, something like that, and it halts, they force them to raise money, whatever it may be. If you're a new trader, you're shit out of luck. So it's just something to think about that, there is that risk. And at these levels, if you're going to be involved, at least let it be profits on the day, which is pretty easy to, given the entries in action all day on this thing. If you had about a quarter left or so, it's probably all free anyway. So, especially if you're new and you're building an account, because there's no reason why you should ever risk your account or anything close to it in one name, just because it's got a lot of momentum and stuff. Sometimes they can whipsaw you pretty good. So we'll see what happens. We're getting into the range that I was hoping for, so we'll see. It's actually going a little bit faster than I thought. The key is like I said, make sure you lock some in, because when the music does stop, well, it's going to pull back $5-10. So here we are. We got a little pullback towards 50s. I think I'm going to end this video, and I'll end up doing a recap tonight for the normal daily, nightly recap of trades made and whatnot. So I'll finish off the last 30 minutes or so. But hopefully you guys had a good trade on this one today. It gave out some pretty amazing opportunities. So it's rare that we have this, because what it does is, it's a situation where shorts are getting squeezed. So if this happens today, not many people are going to be shorting aggressively on the next one. It's just when things line up the right way, people forget that this has 500,000, float, when they see it kind of ramping up and they look at, okay, well, it just came from, 6 to 10 to 12 to 15. Yeah, it probably goes back to 12, and then it just dies off yesterday. Then that also makes you feel like you made the right decision. And all of a sudden they put out news today, which normally wouldn't matter. But just like Z-SAN, when I went over Z-SAN and I was talking about T+2, and it's not about necessarily shorts getting bent up and getting, well, I guess it does have to do with them getting margined out and whatnot. But and more importantly, it has to do with when they're forced to. So, you might have a buy-in at open, a VWAP throughout the day, and it's the days that they don't have a choice and they have to get bought in because they've held past T+2. Unless they're paying for the borrow, and my guess is that, this morning, like I had tweeted out and wrote, I'm sure that it wasn't supposed to be easy to borrow. There's no way that, you can just readily short all these shares and with 500,000 share float. So I think it was likely a mistake, and this turned into a disaster for shorts. And as soon as the music stops, the music's going to stop, and that's that. We've seen this a million times, but they just don't happen enough because shorts learn, and then as soon as they forget, they happen again. So hopefully the recap was helpful throughout the day, and kind of looking at the chart, what I could see at that current time, and sort of anticipating. And remember, this is all over VWAP. Had this been under VWAP, my thought process might have been a little bit different, because that means that most of the people that have traded this thing are probably red on the trade. But when it's over, it means that all the shorts are likely red on the trade. So we'll see what happens into the close. Like I said, I'm holding. I get a little bit less than half. I've got about a third or so. And we'll see what happens in the close. And again, this very well could be a gapper, but with a gapper brings a lot of risk, because anything could happen overnight and in the morning and all that good stuff. But the good news is, if you go back to thinking about like Lake, the Ebola, and LAKE, I think it was ADT or something like that, VSR. There was a ton of stocks that just went crazy at that time, and let's just take a look real quick. You guys remember this move right here, and then I think VSR was another one. You can see the move, and ADT, no, it wasn't that one. ADA, I forget. But VSR is a perfect example. So now, obviously, it's gone to nothing, but this was off of the Lake move. So now, today, we've got YTEN, which is running off of RKDA. And we also have Seed, which has been dead for a while, which is running off of it as well. They're both sympathy names. I can't say that to the sector right now. So as long as this thing's shooting up, I would expect those things to go nuts too. You have to keep in mind that they've got some warrants on 225s on YTEN, but at the same time that brings in shorts. So if it holds over it, then that's really all that matters. So. That's it, guys. If you have questions, leave a comment, reach out. You know the drill.